Hi, this is Dara, and we are now on video 4 of creating our homeschool hub. If you have not seen the previous videos, I suggest you go ahead and check them out. Again, we did the courses and enrolled courses, and now we're going to start working on our assignments table. So for this table, I'm actually going to use what's called a Kanban board. So I'm going to do backslash, and I'm going to type board, use board, and inline. And I'm going to call this assignments. And as usual, they give us three records to start off with. I'm going to delete these two. I don't need them. And I'm going to use this one just to set up my properties. But by the way, just quickly, what is a Kanban board? It is a way to track the status of a project. So here, we're not working on this. It's not started. It's in progress. It's completed. Etc. And you see how easy it is to just move that record back and forth. So we want to make use of that ability. And I'm going to go ahead and go into this card so that I can work on the properties. So I'm going to keep status, but I'm going to edit the statuses that they have here. I don't use not started because I feel that no status is the same as not started. So why have these two columns? So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of not started, and instead I'm going to rename this as needs help. So if a student's working on something and they get stuck, they can throw this over to need help. It's great if maybe you're not available to help them at the time. Like I work full time, so I cannot help my kids with their work in the midst of my day. They'll have to wait till maybe I'm on lunch break or after work is when I usually work with them. So needs help is just a way for them to kind of put it aside, and then I encourage them to go do something else because they're stuck. That they should go work on anything else. And then I can also, in my view, I'm going to be able to see that they need help. So I'll know that this is why this particular assignment is not moving on, because it's stuck in this need help queue. Especially if you have any introverted children that are, that don't necessarily speak up for themselves to say they need help, that's a great way to just say, oh, if you just put it here, then I'll know. And then you don't have to worry about telling me. I'm going to change this to turn in. Okay, so when they're finished with something, they go ahead and turn it in. And then if I decide that yes, that was completed, then I have this complete status. All right. And complete says yeah, it's done. I usually at that point I'll do my close-up work, so I'll give it a grade, whatever it is that I'm going to do. But if it's not, if I don't feel it's complete, then I send it back to their in progress or into their next up. So instead of not started, I like to turn next up. And I'm going to make next up blue, and I'm going to put it at the top of their little waterfall here. So next up is, if I have stage assignments, maybe, I don't want to throw all of the assignments. You saw we were working on that utopian fiction class, and there are actually, I think, something like 30 lectures. So I don't want to throw all 30 lectures into their to use the development term backlog, right, into their next up lane. I want to actually give it to them a little bit of the time when they're ready. So I'm not going to stage everything. I'm just going to stage them as they're ready. So if they're working on their English class right now and they've got an assignment that they're working on, maybe the next English assignment is in the next up queue, but that's it. Not on. So so routinely you're dropping stuff in, then they could say, okay, well, maybe the next up thing, maybe is the math. And depending on how you and your kids work, you might sit down together and say, well, what is the next batch of things that we should put in your next up queue? Or you might say, you might just do it for them. It just depends on how you run your homeschool. I'm going to keep the assigned property that is actually perfect because we need that to say whose work this is. I look to put a last work on date. And so this date is automatically going to change every time this card is edited. And this is this is good because you can know like how long that card has been sitting around without anybody doing anything to it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and link it to a course. So it's not just an assignment just standing out there in the world. I mean, you might have instances where it's a one-off, maybe they said, hey, wouldn't it be interesting to build a rocket, and they don't have they're not in a physical science course, but they want to build this rocket, then maybe that's just a one-off assignment that you may or may not track. But otherwise, we're going to go ahead and relate this to a course. So I'm going to go to not the courses, but their enrolled courses, because that's the class they're taking. That's what we're actually tying it to, is their enrolled courses. And then I want to go ahead and give a grade. If your school works with grades, this is great. I do a number grade because I'm going to let the system do the calculation of assignments for me. If you don't work with grades, then this is just a field you don't need to put. I have found that over the last couple of years, I have not necessarily told my kids about their grades. I just tell them whether they've earned credit or not. But I found that for the progress report, I've had to give some grades. The first year I did something where I did not give grades. I just said they completed the top class, or they're still working on, I said mastery of subject, or still working on. And they were like, we don't know what that means. So I was like, okay, A and C. And I just gave it to them that way. So I find that if I track a grade throughout, then at the end of the year when I'm putting together that report, it's much easier for me to put that grade together. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to give this a due date so I can assign a date that I'm expecting to see this assignment come back. Okay. Now let's go and see how that's going to be applied. So I can delete this. I don't need it. I'm going to go back into our dystopian fiction course, the original course, not the enrolled course. And here what I want to do is I want to do a linked version of that assignments table. So I'm going to do a \. I'm going to start typing the word linked and create linked database. And I'm going to say assignments. Okay. Now, you can see that this is a shortcut to that database, the same way we've kind of linked here. And actually, I don't want this to be related to. When you link to a table, you saw how when we created that linkage, we titled it, but we didn't, when you go back to the other table, it just automatically assigns this title of related to, and then whatever the table is that you're relating it to. So I'm just going to go ahead and just change that title to make it a little view friendly there. But you can see that was a link to that table. This is the same thing. It's a link to that database. It's a mirror of that database. So whatever's in that database, I can see it here. But I don't want to see everything here. I just want the instance of this database available because it makes it easy for me to assign stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first change my view of this table. I don't want the table format. I just want the list format because I want to make this condense into just a column. So I'm going to say list. I'm going to say create. Okay. Now I have two views. I'm going to go back and I'm going to delete that original view. So I only have the list view. And the reason I do this is that if you go between devices, even just, browser to browser, I might still be on another desktop on the browser, or I might have gone to my app, I might use it, I'm in Chrome, I went to Safari, I might be on a phone. It always kind of defaults to this table layout, but if I don't want the table, I have to go ahead and create the list and delete the option of that table being available. All right, and I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to create a filter here, and I'm going to say that the course is empty. So that means that this assignment has not been added to any course. This is kind of a way to just keep this empty, because what I'm doing is I'm going to be moving these into here, and I want to keep this empty. I'm going to go ahead and create this just into 2 columns because if I had the full list of assignments here, it's going to be going all the way down, and I want to be able to get to this easily to access it. I found that the easiest way, it's kind of hard to move a table into creating a column, but if you just do some like, random text, create your column that way, and then move the table underneath there, and then you can delete that text. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and move these assignments just into that column. Oops, there we go. All right, so I want to go ahead and sign assignment number 1. So I'm going to click on the handlebars. I'm going to say duplicate because remember, I don't want to actually move this. I want this to stay here because the base class needs to keep the information that was in the base class so that I can reuse it, right? And then I'm going to just drag this here. As soon as I see that blue line appear, I can let it go. This is now inside of that table. So if I come back up to our planning area and I look at assignments, you'll see there it is, right? Okay, let's go back here. And now that I moved it in here, now I can go ahead and individualize it to the student. So I can go ahead and fix that title. I'm going to go ahead and assign this to Daya. And the course that she's taking with it is Daya's version of the Utopian Fiction class. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and move this into her next up. I'm going to assign this right away. Okay. And now I can do the same thing. And you see it's disappeared because once I told it that there was a course involved, it disappeared. Because I told it to not show me anything that is assigned to a course, right? It keeps this clean. It's a nice kind of hack to be able to get to this assignments table. All right, so let's do Zach's version. So again, I'm going to duplicate, move it over, take this out, assign it to Zach. Oh, next up, assign to Zach. Okay, and assign it to Zach's version of that class. Oops, that's Daya's version. Let's do that again. So I'm going to X that out, and I'm going to click again just to make that menu pop up again, and this time Zach's version of that class. Okay, and again, boom, it's disappeared. So I can go on and do that, and I can stage these. So let's say these 2 I'm not going to assign, so I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate. I'm going to drag it over. Just to be fast, I'm going to delete this. I'm going to assign it to, I'm not going to do a next up because I don't want this in. I want them to start working on class 1 before I stage class 2. I'm going to assign it to Daya. I'm not going to assign the course yet because what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate it within the table. Oops. Yeah. And then here, and then assign it to Zach. And now put Zach's course. You see you can also assign a task to 2 people. So if it's not important, like maybe they're working on it together as a project, they can both have the assignment and they're both taking that class together, and that's being judged as them both taking it and they get a combined grade. But I'm just going to go ahead and do that as individual things. Let's go ahead and put Daya's course. Okay, and I only did it in the instance just so you can see how that worked. But now I'm going to just do them separately. And by the way, let me just show something else that's kind of interesting. So I'm assigning these properties, right? And let's just even do more and put some other stuff in here just so there's more properties to this. If I've created something and I put it into a table and I take it out of a table, now I see it's just a page. There's no properties. It's just the page. But it actually remembers those properties. So if I put this back into the table, then look, those properties came back. So that's pretty cool. You can move things in and out of being pages. Oops, that's all I need. Okay. Right, so now you see we've got our enrolled classes, we've got our assignments. You can see here are the things that are next up. Okay, now I can do some other things here, like I can create a different view of this. So I can say like, I still want to see a board view. I'm going to call this Daya's assignments. I'm going to keep board view and create. And then I'm going to add that filter, and I'm going to say the person it's assigned to is Daya. And now I only see her work. I'm going to create another board view. Okay, and this time I do the filter. I'm going to say that the assignment is to Zach. Okay. And then things I can do, like, I can hide particular columns if I want. For this view, for this view, I'm not going to worry about hiding columns, but when I get to their view, they don't need to see all this information. They only need to see what they're concerned with. So, you're going to see how I do that. But now easily I can switch between these views. So this is everybody's work, Daya's work, Zach's work, right? So if you're a family blessed with many children, you don't have to worry about, getting confused, but seeing all this list of, bunches and bunches of assignments, and yet you just want to see what the, one child is doing. You can easily just focus on that child. Now remember, the no status are the things that I'm assigning. So I finished working on the assignment. I've got it staged and ready to go, but I'm not ready to hand it off. So this is going to stand here. And I like to work ahead. So I might have, a good, mix of these things, at least 5, 6 per course. So this list for me is going to get pretty long. And that's another reason to just say, like, just show it to me by the child. I can also sort. So you see how I've been crafty enough by saying the number assignment this is. So if I come in here and I do a sort, and I do by name ascending, then it sorts by that number. One thing that's kind of odd is that it doesn't understand double and triple digits. So I might have like, 21 happening before number 3. But the other thing that you could do is you could create a property of ID and then sort on that ID if you're so inclined. But I'm usually able to manage here, especially because I'm not going to have all 23 assignments here. I'm just going to have the first batches of assignments from each class. I can also filter by the class. So if I said like course contains, and I select which course I want to see. So if I'm just working on their Utopia class, I can just filter by that Utopia class. But here's the way I actually want to look at assignments when I'm focused on classes. I'm going to come here and I'm going to look at Daya's Utopia course. And I guess I have not made this fully width yet, so I'm going to make it full width. And what I'm going to do here is, you can see this is this related assignment, so let's just change this to assignments. And what I kind of like to do in the order of these things is I kind of like to keep it so that the top stuff is like information that I'm interested in, the bottom stuff closer to the content is the information they're interested in. So they don't need to see all the assignments that they've done here. And there's no way in this view to actually hide this because you're in property view, but they don't need to worry about that. They actually want to look at, this information down here. Okay, they might not even care about the status. Let's move that up as well. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a linked version of that table. Again, the assignments. And this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to, so you see, like, remember when we created the assignments, we created as a Kanban board, but when I've linked it, it's automatically come in as a just a regular inline table. So we obviously want this as a board, so I'm going to change that. I'm going to delete that original view so that it doesn't accidentally slip back into that view. And now I want to filter this. And I'm going to say that first of all, the person that this is assigned to, this is Daya's class, so it's assigned to Daya. And it's assigned to her Utopian course. Okay, so her table's right in here. But, because this is her view, this is what she's going to be looking at as she works, right? She doesn't need to see this column, so I'm going to hide that. She doesn't need to see the complete column, so I'm going to hide that. All she needs to worry about is what's coming up next, what she's currently working on, did she get stuck, and is she finished? That's it. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to each of the courses so that it's just what she needs to see or just what Zach needs to see. All right, so let's just do Zach's version real quick just to be thorough. Oops, I clicked the template button. That's what happened. Let's click enter. And there's other things I could put in this space for them, like if there's like overall course information that I want them to see or have, or maybe there's some, I do have the workbook here, but maybe there's some supplementary reading that I put here, whatever. You feel free to make use of this space the way that you see fit. All right, and delete this view. Okay, and this time again, we're going to hide the no status. We're going to hide complete. And we are going to filter this by Zach's classes or Zach's assignment for his Utopian course. Okay, and there's just the one. Now I could put the sort here as well. Like they're not really going to be doing so many things here that you need to worry about sort, but you can sort it, because we just talked about sorting. Okay, so that's how I go about showing, putting the task and the assignments in. Okay, thanks for joining.